Hey everyone, Sparrow here. Welcome to a brand new project on the channel located on the island of Kyushu, Japan. We have a lot of building to do today, so let's get started. First things first, this zoo needs an entrance. I took a lot of inspiration from the entrance of Japan's probably most famous zoo, Ueno Zoo. It has a taller building on one side and a gorgeous arched structure that is the first thing guests see. I'm sure you've seen many other zoos on YouTube that took inspiration from this entrance, but I will be putting my own spin on it. While I set up the first structures, why a zoo in Asia? Great question, and I'm sure you already know the answer. We just got another new DLC, the Asia Animal Pack. So of course an Asian zoo seemed like the obvious choice. Truth is though, Rising Sun Zoological Gardens has been more or less planned in broad strokes since I completed my Oceania project Sandstone Eco Zoo. With the announcement of the Asia Animal Pack, all I really had to do was slide the new Asia Animal Pack models into my existing plan and get started. But I want to hear from you. Which Asia Pack animal will you be building for first in your own zoos? Make sure to drop me a comment down below. With this main office building done, I'm moving on to these tilted plaster structures. I want this zoo to be a combination of more modern elements with traditional Asian architectural styles mixed in. This falls under the modern elements category, an abstract take on the Himalayan mountains. Once I've copied my arrangement over a few times, I'll pick out some gray tones. This structure will frame the arched entryway on either side, and I'm sure we'll be using it throughout the zoo later on as well. For the curve, I went with the plastic rectangles, slowly creating a slight curve. Angle snap is turned off because even 15 degrees was too much. Once I'm happy with the slope, I'll copy and rotate it around, lining up the flat middle panel to make sure my curve is symmetrical. Dressing up the underside with these conservation slats. I have a feeling there will be a lot of these in this zoo. They work well with many Asian architectural styles. Also popping some lights in. If you've ever been to Japan or even seen pictures of the larger cities, there are lights practically everywhere. Lighting is one of the main themes in this newest DLC for exactly that reason. Just need to get our roof attached to the info center. These are the Zookeeper metal poles, which I have actually been using quite a bit. And to create some balance, we're just copying that same booth over to the other side of the path. With one final touch to our entrance, we are onto the second part of today's build, the Japanese gardens. These are obviously a massive part of the zoo. Kind of difficult to have zoological gardens without a garden. The plan here is to create a raised space that will be filled with the three things every Japanese garden needs: water, rocks, and plants. First, I'm building a simple retaining wall. This will run around the majority of the garden to keep the raised space intact. A simple mesh, metal beam, and stone group with mulch on top. Using a mix of the temperate and tropical rocks to create some depth, I ended up throwing some of the dynamic mossy rocks into the mix as well to brighten things up. For foliage in this zoo, I'm not too overly concerned with keeping everything in the correct biome as it is a sandbox zoo, so I'm also placing some buffalo grass and the tetrastigma vines inside each panel. Once I've got one exactly the way I want it, we'll rotate those into place around the raised garden area. Now every garden needs a beautiful entrance, and for this purpose I'm building a torii gate. These gates are common in Shinto shrines in Japan, often painted this bright red color, and symbolize the transition into a place of purity. And really, what is more pure than a gorgeous garden? The East Asia pieces from the base game stand up so well, and they obviously work great here, but I will be building a lintel for the top out of some twilight pieces so I can get it exactly the shape I want. Again, a slight curve, and I'll copy that over a few times, and our gate is complete. The next stage for the garden is the body of water. This pond will wind through multiple habitats and also allow guests to immerse themselves in the Japanese-style garden. Of course, working with water and paths can be challenging, but we do eventually get a bridge over it. We'll be dressing that up shortly right after creating an aviary for our first animal this episode, the red-crowned crane. Nothing super fancy here, though the shape is going to be the challenge. Every good aviary starts with a basic panel, and we'll be using the dry stone as the base, mesh, marquee beams, and some of the twilight pieces to connect it all together. I've placed a mud column in the center, and after a few tests, I'm able to rotate the panels perfectly into place to create this circular end of the enclosure. I'm looking for a somewhat irregular shape that will follow the curve of the path, so many of the panels will have to be individually placed, but this is definitely not the most complicated aviary build. If you'd like to see a detailed tutorial and some aviaries that are much more complex than this, I highly recommend checking out Captain Callum's aviary tutorial video, which coincidentally was part of the inspiration for this enclosure. Our second enclosure today is for the Japanese macaques. These monkeys are known for enjoying not only climbing but also water, so I created a tub of sorts from glass barriers and filled that with water for a taller pool and filled that with rocks to make it appear more natural. There will also be a waterfall flowing into the pond that spans the whole garden. And we're back with another abstract mountain structure. This time I'm using the plaster cones and staggering their heights and rotations to make it appear like there is a mountain range behind this enclosure. This creates a much flatter wall at the back of the habitat, but I will still include an anti-climb barrier. Behind this wall will be hiding a backstage building for the macaques. A few strategically placed trees to frame our pool will help to bring this enclosure together. The Himalayan birch and Japanese maple are both trees you might find in a Japanese garden, and I think they fit very well here. Once the viewing area for the Japanese macaques is lowered, we need to fill in the rest of the garden. First, a fun prop in the pond between the two enclosures and many rocks that will help the riverbed feel more realistic. And here's a quick look at many of the plants we'll be putting in the garden and enclosures, but I won't bore you with placing all of that foliage. Instead, it's time to circle back to our bridge. I'm attempting to keep a similar style to this prop from the East Asia theme. The African decorative strips match the flooring very well, and we'll be using them to cover up the path. The remainder of the bridge will be a combination of many of the East Asia pieces, which, as I said earlier, really stand the test of time. These pieces are so good. I have to say I really enjoyed creating this garden, and even just the process of researching and designing it was meditative in a sense. While I won't show you everything that went into the build, do look out for some fun elements in the cinematics at the end. One final animal for this episode, it's Tanuki time. This enclosure is based on a picture I found on ZooChat, was not tagged with the location, so I'm not sure where it's from, but I thought it would fit in well just outside the Japanese garden. Setting up a wooden fence first using the Indonesian stained timber and adding some fun details with hinge pieces. This will be the main fence for much of this enclosure, which I'm tucking into the corner of a few staff buildings. The other fence will be this shorter glass barrier. I'm using a few metal pieces from the Americas pack to ground it. Faux rocks and concrete pillars covering parts of the path will hopefully make this look more cohesive and is definitely stolen from my inspo photo. Some final touches to make, including this raised area for the raccoon dogs that will be visible from the Japanese gardens. With the proper foliage and terrain paint, this small enclosure will hopefully look super cute. Time for the big reveal. There was so much building this episode. Thank you for sticking around. The entrance to Rising Sun Zoological Gardens is officially open, and the Japanese garden is the first place to greet us. Red-crowned cranes, Japanese macaques, and an overall zen feel with the water, stones, sand, and various plants. Outside of the garden, we also have our raccoon dogs, who are just absolutely adorable. Such a fantastic model. If you don't yet have the Asia Animal Pack, go and grab it, instant gaming link down below. Leave a like, subscribe to make sure you catch the next episode, and if you would like to see some more Asian inspired builds, don't forget to check out season 2 of Whispering Woods. See you next time, bye.